Hi, and welcome to Reimagined Energy, the podcast that explores how energy is evolving right here in Atlantic Canada and beyond. Today's guest is Temi Udo-Affia, Manager of Clean Electricity at the Government of Nova Scotia's Department of Energy. We're going to talk about Nova Scotia's clean energy electricity goals. What's new with the community solar program, where wind energy is making waves, and how the province is planning for future energy needs. If you're curious about how policy shapes our power and how we're preparing for a net zero future, this conversation is for you. Let's get started. Welcome, Temi. Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you. I'm so happy to be here.
I'm happy to have you too, because I have a lot of good questions lined up for you that we want to go through. And I guess to start things off, tell everyone about your role. You're the manager of clean electricity. So what is that? What are some of the key initiatives that you're working on?
Okay, so as you said, I'm the manager of clean electricity at the Department of Energy. It has many functions, but just to say that the major function is really working on developing energy resources in the province. And so we're focusing a lot on those local clean and renewable sources in the province, like wind and solar.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone knows that we have a lot of it. I think everybody experiences very windy days. And
We're
so,
windy here.
yeah,
Yeah.
so windy.
Yeah.
So we really believe that now is the right time to put those resources to work.
Yeah.
And they have a lot of benefits. So they help to reduce greenhouse gas emissions. But usually, when we are going into contracts for solar and wind, we go into very long term 25-year contracts, and those usually have very stable prices. So they
Mm-hmm.
really help with that affordability angle, helping people save money on their energy bills while also bringing in new industry and jobs into the province. So, a major initiative that we have at the department is the 2030 Clean Power Plan. And
Mm-hmm.
so is a combination of different types of technology, including solar and wind, that helps us to build a reliable, affordable, and sustainable energy system. And the major goal of the Clean Power Plan is that we want to hit 80% of renewable energy for electricity by 2030. And so the Clean Power Plan also feeds into the broader climate plan in Nova Scotia, our climate, our future strategy as well. And under the Clean Power Plan, we have three major pillars. So we have phasing out coal and bringing in new generation, which
Yeah.
is also what I mentioned about. We want to expand our energy sources for solar, for
Mm-hmm.
example, solar for residential or commercial or industrial customers. We also want to bring in more new wind projects into the province. The exciting thing is that construction is already happening for a lot of this. It's not that we want to do it, but it's
Right.
already started,
That's
which is
awesome.
fantastic. It's awesome. And so
Yeah.
construction is going to um, go underway until 2030. At the same time, we also still have our hydro imports from the maritime link. And the combination of all these, as I said, it really just helps us to have access to more affordable
Mm-hmm.
energy sources. We also then have the reliability and resilience part, which I think doesn't really come out so much when we're talking about new wind and solar, but is very much part of the plan. And so the reliability and resilience is just with all these new energy sources coming onto our grid, we want to make sure that we're able to have lights even during peak winter, very cold periods. And we also want to make sure that even during extreme weather events, there's limits on when the lights go off or how long the lights go off.
Right.
So part of that is the transmission, the regional transmission intertie between New Brunswick and Nova Scotia. And so we have this 345 kV reliability intertie, which should be built up until 2029. And then we also have our coal plant. So yes, we want to phase out coal, but we
Yes.
also want to make sure that we have flexible power sources for very high demand periods. So some of those coal plants will be converted into gas or other flexible fuel sources as well.
Cool.
And then the last part of the clean power plan is really making sure that our grid is modern, smart, and that we're able to manage load. One of the recent exciting projects is 3 4 hour 50 megawatt battery facilities that are going to be put in Bridgewater, in White Rock, and Waverley. And these projects are owned by Nova Scotia Power and WMA.
Hmm.
And they should be in place by 2026. So they're going to act as a backup during, when the sun is not always shining, when the wind is not always blowing. We're able to store excess energy into those storage facilities, and they act as a backup. And then another thing is also a lot of the programs run by Efficiency Nova Scotia, which is our efficiency utility here in Nova Scotia. So
Hmm.
those really help us also with smart grid management and load management and grid modernization. And so, yeah, all this is part
Wow.
of initiatives in the Clean Power Plan. I know it sounds very ambitious, but one of the major things for us is that it is doable. And so it is already being done. We are doing it. Most of
Yeah.
the pillars that are needed to implement the Clean Power Plan are in progress or will be in progress soon. And
Hmm.
as of 2024, already 40.5% of our energy in the province comes from renewable energy sources.
That's really great because it wasn't like that before. I mean,
It,
like about
yes,
5 years ago, what could it
yes,
have been like? Like, what was it? What was it 5, 10 years ago?
yes, yes. It was maybe I think it was between 15 to 20%, if not
Wow. So it's
lower.
it's
Yes,
improving. That's good.
yes, yes.
Um, Now, how does your department assess the energy needs within the province? What do you look at?
So the 2030 Clean Power Plan is very much based on um, technology,
Hmm.
science, economy, affordability.
So there's
So
a lot of
it's
data there, a lot of data.
Yes, there's a lot of data that backs up what was put in the 2030 Clean Power Plan. And we usually do that through a method called integrated energy planning or system planning. And
Mhm.
so what you do is that you look at the historic electricity usage data of all the different types of customers, residential, commercial, industrial. You pick a time period, you might pick 10 years, 20 years, and then you look at that data. And then but you also forecast future data, so you want to see like, okay, what is the future energy demand of the province in the next 5, 10, 15, 20 years. But we usually take it in 5 year chunks because
Right.
10
Right.
years is a long time.
It is long. It really is. Yeah.
So much can happen in 10 years. And so you're looking
Yeah.
at population growth, you're looking at economic trends. Also, a lot of our heating is going off oil into electricity. So you want to put in that new load on electricity as well. Same
Hmm.
thing with transportation. At the same time, you're also looking at all the efficiency measures in place, the load management measures in place, as well as climate impact. And then that really helps us to design an electricity system that where you're able to not only balance the new generation, but as well as all the pieces I touched upon on reliability, on resilience,
Right.
on affordability, on grid modernization. And it really helps us to prepare our energy system for the future.
Awesome. All that data, all that. Yep. It's a lot of going through, a lot of homework. Um, how is the community solar program going? Because I had a guest on earlier, and I just want an update because just in the last number of weeks, there's been a lot of announcements that have been made. So, can you give an update on how that's going?
I sure can.
Yeah.
Community solar is really exciting. It's
Hmm.
like one of the, as I mentioned, one of the foundation pillars of the Clean Power Plan. And now you're able to see how it all fits in
Yeah.
as well. So for maybe people that are listening that don't know much about community solar, is
Hmm.
really one of the programs that once those projects are in place, we're able to see the immediate direct benefits to communities, because it's really allowing community groups, nonprofits, municipalities, First Nations to directly apply to the province for large scale utility community solar projects. Um, And so we started receiving applications, I believe, in early 2024. We've
Mm-hmm.
received a lot of applications.
Did you? That's good. A lot of interest.
A lot
Wow.
of interest. And yeah, we can't accept all because we really have like
Yeah.
a well-defined evaluation criteria where we're looking not only at the direct benefits to the community, but also the impacts that it has on all ratepayers in Nova Scotia. And so we
Mhm.
try to balance the two: direct community benefits versus overarching impacts on all Nova Scotian ratepayers. But it's been exciting so far.
Yeah.
We've approved 9.2 megawatts this
Great.
year alone. Yeah, so and that's 9.2 out of the 100 megawatts that we have a target for. So already we're at
Oh,
10%.
wow. You're on
Yes.
tracking well. Good, good.
We're at 10% in 1 year. And so those are about four projects across the province in Cape Breton, in HRM, and in Annapolis County. And we also have one by New Dawn in Pine Tree Park in Sydney, and that has been in operation since October of 2024. Currently serving 28 residential homes since last year, October. But just for a slight update on community solar as well, we are on a temporary 3 months pause for now. As I said,
Hmm.
we are receiving so many
Yeah,
applications,
you
and
need to reevaluate and get
yes,
caught up. Yeah.
yes, and we want to see like what has worked, what has not
Yeah.
worked so well. Also, what are the changing market conditions as well? Do we need to include that in our evaluation process? But we
Hmm.
hope to be open in September again for new applications.
Great. We were joking earlier how we get a lot of wind here, and at any given day, there's usually a gale going blowing somewhere in the province. How are we doing with wind energy? I mean, we're harnessing it, we're taking advantage of it, and for as a renewable energy resource. So, what areas of the province are where are projects underway?
So, if anyone takes anything out of the episode today, is that it is happening. Is
Yeah,
happening. So, currently
yeah.
we are adding 300 megawatts of new wind to the grid by 2026. Some of that
Hmm.
has already started construction this year. Some of it will be finalized this year, but the entire 300 megawatts will be finalized next year. And so we did that we had a procurement process in 2022 called the rate-based procurement that we launched and awarded four projects. So four projects, I think, in West Hants, in Cumberland and Colchester County, in Yarmouth County, and also in Pictou and Antigonish. And so together, those four projects make up the 300 megawatts. Is going to provide about 1,200 gigawatts hours of renewable electricity annually. And this is 11% of Nova Scotia's total electricity consumption. And so it's also going to save ratepayers because I mentioned that these sources of energy we usually enter into very stable contracts, and through that, it's saving ratepayers $100 million annually for 25 years.
That's
So it's
awesome.
fantastic.
That's yeah.
It's
That is
fantastic.
that. Yeah, good news.
It's
That's really great.
fantastic. Yeah, and
Well,
so just
yeah.
also to say that I touched on the new industry piece, and so it's bringing 340 construction jobs as well. And
Hmm.
one of the things that we really really like about the way that these projects are designed is that almost every project is majority owned by Mi'kmaq communities in Nova Scotia as well.
Excellent.
And so, if you are anywhere in West Hants and Cumberland and Colchester, I believe that several wind turbine blades are coming in this month, and construction
Yeah.
is going to go all summer. So, if anybody, if anybody has a
Right.
chance
You're
to drive by,
driving
yes,
by,
you'll
you're
see
wondering
the
what's going on.
yes,
It's
yes,
really
yes,
great. So
yes.
it's July now, 2025. So yeah, so this summer things will be operating. That's really, progress. People are really, doing some really cool things. And speaking of that, there's a lot of innovative, technologies that are out there. So I would imagine you and your department, you're keeping an eye on technology. So what approaches, are you, excited about in the clean energy space? Which ones do you find interesting?
So for us in electricity, we like to keep an eye, but so the technology has to have been proven and demonstrated, and for by the time it gets to us in electricity, because as I said, we're really balancing between, okay, what is innovative and what is exciting
Hmm.
versus how does it fit into the grid versus what's the impact on ratepayers from the cost of that technology. But with all that, what I'll say is that one of the things that I'm really excited about is long-term duration storage. Because
Mm,
right now we as I mentioned, the previous storage projects I mentioned are about 4 hours of battery storage. With long-term duration, you're looking at over 10 hours of storage, and it's really important for us because, as I said, the sun doesn't always shine, the wind doesn't always blow, and
right.
when it does shine and when it does blow, sometimes it's not when you need it. And so
Mm,
we really need that flexible source of power where we're able to store that excess energy and then use it during those low sunshine and low wind periods. And then we can really bridge the gap for the grid during peak periods. Another
yeah.
reason why I'm really excited about storage is that for the more technical side of the grid, it helps us with a lot of ancillary services. So it helps us with voltage frequency and inertia and just a lot of things that are not that interesting to hear about, but once you dive into it, you're like, okay, this is really necessary for the grid.
Yeah. Yeah. That's cool.
So
Uh,
I'm really paying attention to how not only research is going, but also how the demonstration projects are going. We're seeing a lot of technology on pumped hydro, on thermal storage, on compressed air. So I'm really looking forward to seeing like how those will come up and what role they will play in a post 2030 energy world.
Yeah. Energy storage is definitely a hot topic just to keep that grid resilience there. So, what are the most, like, I know that you have, a lot of projects and you're working on policies that are being developed. So, which policies, I guess, or projects are being developed, by the Department of Energy? Like,
So
I hear there's a new ISO, perhaps, maybe
yes,
and that NS Energy Board,
yes.
So yeah, tell us a little bit about those and others.
Yes. And so, yeah, I think I focused a lot more on the projects with the previous questions, but also
Uh-huh.
policy is exciting.
Yeah.
We've done two major policy and legislative reforms now, which, as you
Hmm.
mentioned, is setting up that independent body, the energy system operator, and also setting up the Nova Scotia Energy Board. And so these two were the major outcomes of the 2023 Electricity Task Force report. And the purpose of that report was just to come up with recommendations that would help us to understand what needed to change in the system to allow for us to modernize our electricity system, while also bringing on all those components of projects and making sure that ratepayers have clean, reliable, and affordable electricity. And so the More Access to Energy Act and the Energy Reform Acts were introduced in 2024. And as at April of this year, both the ISO and the Energy Board came into force this year. And so with the ISO, its main duties is that we are able to run procurement sources for new generation and storage infrastructure and in a way that is a very transparent and very competitive. And so bringing the lowest cost options, but also the most technology sound options
Hmm.
into the province to protect ratepayers. The ISO is also going to take over system planning. So just as we have 2030 Clean Power Plan, the ISO will also have probably a 2035 plan, 2040 plan, and we'll continue to take over that system planning and grid operations just to make sure that our grid continues to meet our needs both now and in the future. So the ISO is is really in its startup phase. They have a board, but they're also recruiting. But we fully expect a transition by 2026.
Hmm.
And with the energy board is now we have a board specifically for energy, and it can really expand its role outside of the functions that it had while it was still the former utility and review board. And so the board is going to review electricity rates and budgets, is going to ensure consumers are protected, and it's also going to monitor the performance and compliance not only of the utility but also of the ISO. And so both of these reforms really allow us to lay the foundation for preparing for what net zero could look like for the grid by 2035. And also, as the province is growing, how to make sure that we are meeting our needs while ensuring competitiveness and transparency.
Well, who can be on the energy board? Is it a mixture of industry and
Yes.
business? And
So the energy board, I think they appointed the board in February this year,
Mhm.
and it's usually a mix of both, lawyers, judiciary, engineers, economics, because you need all those factors to
You need
um,
all the angles covered.
exactly, you need all
Mhm.
the angles. But also the energy board usually when they have matters, there's usually a mix of stakeholders in the matters being reviewed. So you have consumer advocates, you have small business advocates as well. Even us as the department, we can intervene or contribute. And so yeah, they usually set up those groups for every matter that they open with regards to monitoring the ISO and the utilities.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Temi. It was a pleasure talking to you today. And I'd love to have you back on again just to give another update. So let's say another year from now, just to see, because I'm sure there'll be a lot of other movement and announcements to make. But
I
appreciate your time and all the work you guys are doing. It's good.
Thank you so much. Thank you. I was happy to be here today. Thank you.
That was a behind the scenes look at the clean energy policies shaping our province. If you found this episode insightful, consider sharing it with a friend or colleague who cares about the energy transition. You can catch more conversations like this at reimaginedenergy.com or wherever you get your podcasts. Thanks for listening and keep reimagining what energy can be. I'm your host, Maria McGowan. See you next time.